are back watching Wild Rift Icons inaugural global championship for League of Legends Wild Rift. I am Mika Fabs, and guess who I found sneaking here backstage for a quick interview? We have Chaz, Chazix himself from RRQ. Chaz, congratulations!
Thank you.
This was an amazing, and I think like right off the bat, we love the energy from you guys post game, from what you guys are doing over there, and all the way from even before the game, you guys were singing and everything. Can you tell me how the team felt coming into this venue and playing your first game?
We are really excited coming in the stage because we prepared for this since WCSPH. We really want the LAN event in the Icons, and we really feel excited and motivated, and that's why we were singing and doing some meme stuff like that.
What were you singing? Care to share the song?
Filipinos, I forget.
You
It's
probably
like
will post
Neneng
about
B,
it.
like that, Neneng.
Okay, all right. It's a Filipino. Well, we enjoy it. We definitely heard it over here. Now, of course, how did you guys prep for Icons, knowing that you guys have quite a long journey ahead of you coming into play and hopefully making it all the way to the end?
We really thought we can do in a group stage with team. We ate RQ, but suddenly we go in play-ins, and we prepared for that. For we lost, and it's okay for us. It's a long journey for us, but it's okay. We really need to build the momentum for us.
And I think we can definitely feel the momentum with you guys, with what we saw going on in that series. Now, of course, there is a score to settle. There is, of course, this sort of South Asia versus Chinese region kind of rivalry. How do you guys feel about now that you guys need to step up to the plate?
Oh yeah, we really feel confident right now because from USG we build the momentum. We get our energy, and I think we really need to make C proud and also PH proud.
Definitely, and I think you guys are up to the challenge. Plus, you have a personal cheerleader on the analyst desk, and Rico, personal cheerleader here. You got two of us over here backing you guys up. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Chaz.
guys.
Thank you very much. Good luck on the rest of your games.
Okay.
Back to you guys on the analyst desk. Kangas?
I think it's pretty accurate to say we have a cheerleader here.
Yes!
Yeah. Awesome interview there to hear from the players themselves. Happy we were able to get the first one in for the day. And Riku, your region got a win.
I know, I'm so happy, and everybody else is so happy as well, as we saw from the fan camps over there with the watch parties. And I know that's just the beginning. I know there's going to be more coming from RRQ.
All 2-0s so far of the day. So let's get on to the next series because we have two more closes out. RIX coming in from the UK, looking like the most explosive team out of the WEC. And despite being second seed, a lot of people are saying they should give more competition at the international stage for EU fans. So with an army behind them, they carry a lot of weight of expectations from EU.
Yeah, definitely. These are the guys. These are the EU guys, and you know what's funny? Because their journey wasn't as smooth. Like, I'm saying right now, RIX is the strongest team in Europe overall. But they were second, right? Like, they won everything at home. Like, all the tournaments at home, they won and won and won and won. Like, nearly everything. They had a few hiccups here and there, but they won everything. But then at the live stage, we thought that they would win everything as well. But then they lost the finals. But I think that here, it's going to go well for them. Like, this time they're going to do it.
The
Three times the
funniest thing though, is that's what happened at Horizon Cup 2. So maybe a little curse, but let's think playstyle, Riku. Let's think playstyle. What should we identify when we look at RIX?
You know, for me, I think they really have to stabilize the mid lane, and well, stabilize the game rather, especially up against an experienced region such as WCK, and we're looking at T1 as that's going to be their opponents. So I'm looking at Snitch here, who can play anything and everything that the team requires and needs, depending on how the draft is going to look like. Again, we talked about how he can play anything from utility down to the carries. We even saw him play the Vayne mid as well, so that's going to be incredibly important, especially the fact that we've seen, you know, Singed are tank mids are very popular.
Yeah, and another player to look at is Doom. This guy, especially on the new ADC meta, is incredible. Like, he was always forced to play the mages because ADCs were not meta, but right now they are meta, and this guy is the best ADC in Europe by far. Like, it's not even close. You can see him right here walking out. If they get carried, this is the guy to do it.
So if we're looking at the patch that we're on right now, is this a bonus for him? Because we're looking AD carries, and maybe more of them being prevalent right now.
So, Kangas, RIX is probably the single team where this patch is like the biggest buff ever. And not like the previous patches.
I like seeing Draven on my screen.
The previous patches. And I have a few things to say. I'm going to say it real quickly. ADC buffs, Tristana buff, Draven buff. This is all for Doom. And then next up, the Morgana buff as well. Seven, who is the jungler, is a Morgana main. Everything got buffed.
I know we're excited for RIX, and we might have a slight bias, but let's talk about T1, the opposition. As the third seed coming in, let's quickly touch on their play styles and what we should expect from them, because I'm hearing that the players are already getting ready to hop into the game. So when it comes to T1, what's the style that we expect from this team?
So the one important thing to understand about T1 is they have heavy objective focus, right? Like they always rotate for dragons. Now this can be a strength and this can be a weakness. It's up to RIX on how they play against it. And JY is an amazing player, and like he's always even in the jungle. Like yet again, it's the junglers that are so important. Like he's either even or he's ahead. Like if they're winning the game, he'll be like 5k ahead, and if they're losing the game, somehow, some way, he'll still be even.
Well, we talked a lot about RIX, not as much about T1, but we do have to get into the game, so we'll let T1 do the talking for themselves. So we send it over to a new caster pair, Rafa and Stuart. Take it away.
Oh, baby!
Woo!
Stuart, you know what time it is? We've got RIX and T1 playing up against each other, but you know what also time it is? This is Wildrift's debut of the first ever North American and European cast duo. So I know we've had a lot of trash talk between NA and EU personalities, players, coaches, you know, from one friend across the pond to the other. I think we can put our differences aside and put out a banger of a cast, as well as looking forward to a dynamite series between these.
This is probably the closest series of the day, in my opinion, Rafa. You know, RIX coming in from Europe, T1 as well from Korea. These are two big regions as well. T1 has that history of League of Legends as well. Big organization coming in. RIX as well coming in, going to be trying to take down the Titans of T1.
The other thing, too, that I'm looking forward to is how well these two teams can show the adaptations coming into this new match. I think we've already seen such a wild priority on the Lucian pick, and when you talk about T1, you have to look at BDG in the Dragon lane and his priority with Lucian.
Yeah, the Lucian builds and everything at the moment has been very interesting for mid lane Lucian so far. 0% win rate.
You haven't liked it that much.
Yeah, it's, as an AD carry myself, not really something that I like, but as you mentioned, you know, BDG on the Lucian in the bot lane goes for the more aggressive build. Played 3 times in that third place match that actually won them and got them to icons as well, so that's going to be a big pick for them. Also, the same with RIX as well. I've seen it being played by Snitch as well in the mid lane, so I wouldn't be surprised if they prioritize it as well.
Going into this first game, we know the Lucian priority is going to be a big contest between both of these teams. But I think the other thing that you want to look at too is, you already mentioned it before, the mid lane matchup between Snitch and Core. You know, BDG and Doom is going to be our other big one, but for the mid lane, Snitch and Core have probably the most versatile champion pools coming into this Group C alone.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Snitch is like the backbone of RIX. Snitch is the one that's, you know, he calls himself sometimes the boomer of the team as well. So yeah, Snitch, he plays a lot of champions. He has a very big champion pool as well. And I think the whole of RIX have a really big champion pool, but sometimes it bites them back as well. Sometimes it's the situation where RIX go for these new picks, but then it just bounces back against them and they can't do anything, especially in that grand final with the WAC.
The grand final. You and Hells were talking a lot about, you know, the fall of RIX in the grand final up against Team Queso, who eventually did become the #1 seed from the WREC. But the other thing too for Snitch, I think when you're looking at his champion pool versus something like Core's at least, even though he's got a ton of variety of picks, one big thing is that Ahri for him. Whereas Snitch, a lot of the main champions that he's been picking is kind of even across the board. I mean, Snitch or Singed, the Snitch Singed is one of the higher picks up there, but then it's also on par with something like, I think Garen was a big one as well.
Gragas is another one.
Gragas is the other big one as well.
Yeah, there's again, it's just so many champions that Snitch can play, and I think Ahri might be a big thing as well in this series. Maybe, you know, haven't seen it yet so far, but as you said, you know, Core is very, very comfortable on that. Ahri has played it a lot as well. Played it a few times in that third place match as well. But again, coming into a new meta, you know, with Doom as well, as you mentioned, is kind of like our second priority is that bot lane matchup. You know, Doom against BDG. With the AD carry meta slowly coming in, we haven't seen too much of it yet. We've seen like Vegars and Corkis, but these crazy hyper carries that we kind of expected.
And that was the big thing too, with the lethal tempo being added as a keystone. A lot of us were suspecting, oh, this is finally might be the chance where we get to see late game marksmen start really popping off, something that would actually favor a majority of the Korean teams like Rolster Y and Kwangdong Freeze. But with T1, they're one of the few Korean teams that does not prefer the late game playstyle. They want to play for the mid game. They want to play even for the early game. They're getting super aggressive, and that really comes down to the priority of either the Lucian for BDG or something like a Mage, a Lux, even an Orianna is also up on the table for him.
Yeah, that top side for T1 is probably one of the most aggressive, if not the most aggressive top side of
Zhong's scary, man.
Yeah, they're all scary in that top side of the map. I think, you know, coming into the Icons, T1 is definitely one of the more aggressive teams as well coming into Korea compared to the other two, you know, Rolster Y and also Kwangdong Freaks. And that's going to be an interesting one because RIX sometimes they like to focus on the macro play. They like to focus on either trading objectives. They don't really to team fight as much. They try and go for macro all the time. So it's going to be interesting how that clash works out.
And RIX definitely need to put the best foot forward because, as you said, this is probably our closest series of the day, but this could also be the closest series within Group C. And if RIX, if you're one of the few Western teams that have the expectations of going above and beyond, of beating some of the powerhouses from the East, whereas Korea, mainly China, is the big, you know, big raid boss going into Icon's first ever global championship run. You know, you're looking at RIX, and I think for them, this is where you can just really make a great first impression and try and leave everything on the Rift tonight.
You look at the other two teams in Group C as well. You know, you've got Vivo Keyed and also J Team. So I think this group in general is very, very close. You know, I think whatever team wins this series could go on to win the entire group because they'll play either Vivo Keyed or J Team, which J Team coming into the group as kind of, we can say, you know, the 4th seed really, coming out of China, and then Vivo Keyed as well from Brazil. But Brazil again is a region that, you know, you just can't look behind them.
Yeah, you look at TSM's performance back in Horizon Cup, and they were the ones that caught us all off guard, taking a game off of Rolster Y back then, who, I mean, no other Western team had been able to do that at that capability. So Brazil is a region that we can't sleep on. But of course, we're going to be getting towards Keyed Stars later in our final matchup tonight. It is RIX and T1, third seed from Korea respectively, and the 2nd seed from RIX. I think another thing that you want to look for when it comes to RIX GG is this Morgana specialist in 7, because I don't know if you saw the video that I posted up about the Morgana clear speed. I know I got boomer thumbs and a lot of people memed about my flash into the Raptor wall, but the point still stands. Her clear speed is by far the fastest out of any other jungler on the patch.
And I feel like 7 is one of the only players that really plays Morgana jungle, I think, even in this entire tournament. And it's something that RIX like to prioritize sometimes as well. He's played it, you know, so many times this year. He's played it 7 times in total this year as well. So it's definitely a big priority.
7 times for 7.
Yeah, there you go.
How'd that? Weird how that works out. That's crazy. Plan that 7? Hang on. I need to leave the caster booth real quick. I need to talk to him real quick. I need to get a quick interview. Hey, RIX, can we stop the match? I need a quick interview with your jungler real quick.
Maybe we can shout over. Maybe they hear us. Actually, maybe not.
7! I don't think he can hear us. They got on.
Cruise, yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone else probably heard you in the studio,
Yeah.
but
They always can
the
hear
players,
me, Stuart.
yeah.
I'm just a naturally loud person. It can be really obnoxious for others sometimes, but you know what? You know what's not obnoxious? The game starts as we're finally loading into the draft for Game 1 between RIX and T1. Before we get even further into the bans, quick note, I actually got a chance to catch up with T1 yesterday and their coach June, and I just got a quick vibe check. It's like, hey, how are you feeling about the patch? How are you feeling about scrims? You know, what are the vibes like? And June told me, it's like, you know what? We came in to scrims in the patch. We were surprised that the scrims were above expectations for us. So now our confidence level is insanely high going into the tournament, as well as the patch really favored them. And I think with that Lucian priority really jumping up for everyone across the board, you already know it favors BDG as well in the Dragon Lane.
Yeah, the most important thing though is that RIX is on blue side and they actually banned the Lucian.
Yeah, you gotta respect it. Yeah. BDG, 3 games in a row in their 3rd place matchup against Team GP for Korea's 3rd seed, winning every single time.
Yeah. That's a huge one. And interesting enough, RIX actually banned out the Singed as well. Now, Snitches most played champion in the WREC finals, was actually that Singed as well. So we've taken that away in the Lulu ban as well. I think, you know, red side, we're kind of seeing the same sort of bans now, what we've seen before, the Yumi and the Senna as well. There are going to be some other things.
So there's 2 power picks that are looming in the shadows right now that I'm thinking about that have not been banned. Karma and Jace. They have been 100% banned by all the other teams up until this moment. And one of those champions is going to be let through. The question is, will RIX prioritize it? The Karma is the one that gets kicked back into the corner. And bam! Jace slammed down.
That was perfect. That was absolutely perfect. But the question is, though, where is this Jace going to go? This Jace is a very flexible pick. It can be played in mid lane, Snitch in mid lane. Have seen a little bit in the jungle and also in the Baron lane as well, but T1, they've come to play. They were like, okay, we know what we're picking. Corki, Kha'Zix, let's go for it.
And you don't want to mess with Jay White when he is on the Kha'Zix. I mean, this assassin has already proven to be one of the most powerful picks for junglers on the patch. I think every time it has been picked on the side today has been 100% win rate.
Yep. Normally we see this kind of Lucian Corki trade in the mid lane that we've seen, but now we're not going to have that. We're most likely going to be seeing Corki and Jace in the mid lane, so we have to see maybe if it is a mid lane Jace, is it going to be a Hull Breaker Jace as well? Because we spoke about it a little bit before, you know, with the Hull Breakers. When there is a Hull Breaker, sometimes you want to build another Hull Breaker as well. But 7 on this Lee Sin, his second most played pick in the entire year. 7 is an aggressive jungler at times, especially on Lee Sin, and also Rakanna pick as well. Blue's most comfortable champion, played it so much during the WREC finals as well. Sometimes even got pulled away from him in the WREC finals.
Yeah, before we get into the second round of picks and bans, you see already a core being made by RIX here. All about playmaking, all about early aggression and early advantages. Jace, a powerful laner in itself that you can play to, have priority in, and then you use that to leverage an advantage. For this Lee Sin and the Rakan to be able to invade or create pressure on another side lane, you can force dives, whereas T1, they have a little bit of defensive action. Corki's not going to be able to match it as well. Kha'Zix wants to wait a little bit, can't skirmish early, is waiting for the split power spike, whereas August can make plays or can defend plays.
Yeah, he's you know, aggressive or defensive, it depends what you want. Now with that Rakan pick as well, I think we've seen a lot of supports already, icons that have been roaming around the map, and I really want to see who be the first one. He needs to be the first one that goes in, and this Riven pick as well, I think Riven was quite, you know, on people's radars being one of the most contested picks coming into icons. He got a buff quite recently, but also she's just never been nerfed. She's really good in jungle, Baron lane as well. Interesting enough, she hasn't been picked much, but it's been picked up here.
Yeah, there was a period of time where Riven was one of the strongest picks on the patch. They had to tone her down a little bit, especially with her interaction with the Solari Charge play, but then that item got to the can. But it's okay, because now we have Divine Sunderer and this Lux pick more than likely coming in for Doom.
I don't know what I think about this, Rafa. I wanted to see Doom on these hyper AD carries. I think everyone will just be saying to me, shut up about Doom and hyper carries. I mean, now,
if you wanted to cope, maybe it's random on the Jace, Snitch Lux, and then they last pick the marksman for Doom, and it's something super spicy. Maybe a Tristana.
Jinx? Oh! It's gonna be our first Echo!
The boy who shattered time is finally here! We were in the green room. We were talking about that. Somehow, Echo has just gone under the radar for everyone. Not a single pick, not a single ban, and it finally shows up here for RIX.
Echo versus Ahri mid lane. This is Core's main as well. This is what Core is known for the Ahri pick. But Snitch, he is the streamer. He streams a lot. He's played so much Echo on his streams as well. And it's a pick that might not do so well in the early game, but when this champion scales, you could just one-shot anyone. It's going to be insane. They have so much lockdown as well, you know, the Lux, the Rakan, and also the Echo.
There's so much skill expression that can be demonstrated with a strong Echo player, because a lot of the times the bursts, people will expect it coming from your first and third ability comboing as a 3-hit passive, right? But the most skilled Echoes will be able to control the pace of a fight, where their zone is, and be able to chrono break and get that massive AoE ulti for the nuke.
The scaling on the ultimate is huge. You know, as long as you just keep track of where that shadow is, Echo Shadow, then you'll be able to go back, one-shot everyone, especially if you combo that with the W as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely huge, and I'm so excited for this, Rafa. One quick thing as well is that, you know, we talk about RIX being such a flexible team, they could play anything. This is the first time Doom's played Lux this year, and also this is obviously Echo's first game, and it's just a new pick for Snitch as well. So, you know, I thought coming into Icons, they might play something a bit more comfortable, but they're just like, no, we're going to pick some more new champions.
I love that. RIX, I'm a big fan. I want to see this Echo thrive on the Rift because this champion, I have been a huge fan. I've been spamming in my own solo queue games. And obviously, anytime we talk to Darkbreaker about the Echo, he was outraged when he got more buffs because, like, this champion was already strong and now you're making him broken. And we finally get to see if it lives up to the hype.
I have to see. I mean, this is a good thing about Echo as well in the early game, is that if you start your first ability, you can push out this mid lane wave. And you can see the mid lane wave is just pretty much already pushed in, which allows Snitch to potentially roam around the map. He is playing a little bit more passive, though, against this Ahri as well. But Random with the new skin as well on Jace, Forsaken Jace, that came out yesterday. So is a new skin. So I think he just picked it just for the skin.
I mean, Forsaken Jace is kind of I mean, Random's already getting the drip check locked down here in Singapore for Icons. But for RIX, one thing that you mentioned was how well are they going to be able to adapt? We've seen so much fast-paced gameplay from the winning teams in both RRQ as well as JDG earlier today. The second wave roam timers, as the second wave is coming in right now. Once this cannon is gone, I want to see what Penguin is going to do on this Gragas. Is he going to immediately book it towards the top side of the map? But as you already see right now, in the other previous games, some of the other supports would have already been towards the mid lane. So they're taking a delayed approach, and it looks like Seven should be able to have an uncontested crab on the top side of the map.
Yeah, they're just going to be trading crabs at the moment. Kha'Zix's on the bot side, Lee Sin is on the top side. Both these teams at the moment seems to be playing very, very standard, no crazy roams or anything not just yet, but this is kind of something that I expected really coming into a World Finals, is maybe teams playing a bit more passive, but Seven on this Lee Sin, he's going to try and kill the Riven.
There's not any strong CC outside of the hammer. They bonk him, and RIX is on the board. Europe strikes first blood against Korea.
Oh, Europe won, Korea nil. It's only in kills so far, but it was so well played by Jace. You can see how many minions Riven is losing as well. JY has to come up to soak that experience, to soak that gold as well. Random used the Jace as a slow push into the top side, and then as SE7, he cleared the whole bot side, went up into the top scuttle, and Random was like, cool, we got a big wave here, we can dive top, and we can get that first blood. So it's really, really well played by Seven also, Random.
And this is what you have to do for RIX. If you have an aggressive duo in the Lee Sin and the Jace, I don't want them to be sitting back and just letting the game roll out. You have to be active. You have to be forcing the advantage down the throats of T1, because T1, most of their champions outside of this Ahri are ones that want to wait for that first item spike. They have some strength in the laning phase, but they cannot withstand the brutality of Lee Sin and Jace as early as level 3.
Yeah, at least, oh, he's going back up here again. I don't think we saw him in the bush as well, but you were saying, you know, Sin is aggressive early game jungler. Jace as well, this aggressive early game Baron lane as well. This is really important to try and get this Jace ahead, and it looks like that's kind of where they're going as their weak condition. But JY, he has been spotted on the old crab. Snitches here as well. He's doing too much. Just a little bit of poke, a little bit of a long tap, and he's just going to back.
Echo's not the strongest champion super early on, but because of the buffs, his power spikes allow him to come online just a little bit faster. Once that Luden's Echo is completed, he's going to be able to deal, let's say a considerable amount of, a respectable amount of burst damage that as T1 you cannot ignore.
I wouldn't even say respectable, I'd say ridiculous damage to it. I would just say absolutely ridiculous damage. You were just trying to keep it on the low. You was trying to be like, yeah, I'm not going to go too crazy on this because it might backfire, but Echo does ridiculous damage. But Clue, we can see roaming up at the moment, and also Penguin trying to, going back to lane for but just walking around, making sure that he can protect himself. But Doom on this pick, we've seen Lux being played a little bit in other regions. I believe this might even be the first time we've seen Lux being played from an EU player in an EU region as well. It's a pick with a great lockdown you can use. Clue's ultimate and also his knock-up on top of the Lux as well. A lot of crowd control in this duel lane, which might help them as it goes into the fights. And speaking of fights, we are seconds away from the first objective. That's 1 minutes now, not 4 minutes. This is going to be interesting to see. Most champions now are building their first items.
The big thing to know for me is Ram has already completed his breaker, whereas Song is waiting on that first item cleaver. They've already transitioned a lot of their power towards the Baron side of the map. Penguin is going to be here a little late, but he is in time to make sure the turret doesn't fall They wanted to knock it down while the turret resistances were down before the Herald came up. They still have advantageous position here, but that package is going to be crucial.
Package is also going to be crucial. Also, Doom Road up here as they move both the mid laners down to the bot lane. This is something that's kind of very standard. You see the bot lane, Dura laners going into the mid lane for the wave clear, and then you'll see where this is going to go in terms of objectives. 7 is already moving up towards the Rift. Has started as well, but it looks like it's going to be traded on the other side of that by Jay.
Yeah, and just like Hel said on the test, T1 very focused on the dragons, and the Infernal Dragon, that's one that you definitely want to have in your back pocket with a mid-game scaling position like this, because a lot of these assassins, bruisers, not necessarily the strongest. Super early on in the get-go, the match against the Leafs and the Jays, but the first item already being completed, now going to have a little bit of extra firepower behind.
Yeah, the extra little bit of damage that you're going to get from the Infernal Dragon will help them with their scale as well. You know, you got the quality scaling, the Kha'Zix scaling as well. We've got a bit of Reaver Corki to see. A bit more standard, you know. We've seen some crazy Corki builds so far today. It's only 2 series.
As the current resident market player on the cast, I know that in the green room you have just been absolutely disgusted by the amount of Hull Breaker Black Cleaver rushes for Corki. Not saying that it's incorrect, but you're just like, man, why do you guys not like doing damage with crit?
It's like they're building bruisers on a marksman. It's like just tag. I think there was a situation where it was like Lucian and Corki are fighting each other, but no one's dying. Normally one gets one shot, the other one does, but they're just bruisers and they're just tit for tat basically.
Yeah, somehow the 2 marksmen are fighting a wet noodle fight. That's something that you usually see out of. But RIX, like the proactivity right now, already getting the Rift Herald down. However, team is here to defend, and it's on a full health turret, so it won't get first sprint quite yet, but some players over to the way of RIX. A natural 1,000 gold advantage has been built up after the first blood here. T1 forcing them away with Jay Jong popping the wind slash.
Yeah, Jong uses the ultimate, can't go on top of, so unfortunately. He tried to be active, like you said, at least trying to get the mid, but Penguin as well.
Oh, 7 goes in for the insect on the JY, kicks him back, and it looks like Penguin is the one that paid the price for it. RIX is already on the board. T1 answering back onto 7 because he was very deep behind enemy line. It's a 1-for-1 in the end.
Yeah, 1-for-1 trade. Penguin dives in, 7 dives in and dies. You know, everyone's diving in, trying to make this crazy. It's definitely a lot slower paced series so far, we've seen in play in the stage at the moment. A little bit of a skirmish there where, you know, Penguin tried to flash in, 7 tried to flash in as well. It was a really, really nice kick, but unfortunately it was just a 1-for-1.
So far, Stuart, I want to get a quick vibe check right now because I was expecting 7.5 minutes before we get to that. We're going to look at the replay.
Yeah, we're going to look at the replay. Really, really nice play by 7. Tries to flash away as well. Problem is, you're jumping onto Core and BD on Corki and Ari. Says not very much you can do there. And Greg died on the other side and also died. So a little bit of a skirmish, but again, a much lower pace game this time around.
Okay, back to the vibe check here. So, looking at the other 2 series, far more fast-paced. We made great notice of it. This has been a slower game. For RIX, 2-1, 1,000 gold advantage. How confident are you feeling about EU matches right now?
I'm feeling confident as Core's going in.
Okay, Core charm, and just say that maybe Stuart did just get you the caster curse. RIX, it's just a 1 kill over for T1. Not all momentum has been completely nullified by T1, but they are answering back. Turret taken on the Baron side of the map. RIX are going to try and knock out the turret on the bottom side of the map, and it looks like T1 are going to be able to neutralize it for now.
John looks like he's even going to carry on pushing in the Baron lane as well. This is something that RIX loves to do. They like to trade in terms of towers. They like to make sure that, you know, if one tower gets taken on one side of the map, then another tower is going to be taken on the other side of the map. But unfortunately, for RIX, T1 were there to defend the bot lane tower. So a little bit of an overstep, really, by Random. He did get caught out as well, but Refa, we're pretty much dead even game. It's a 300 goal difference in Wild Rift. That's basically nothing.
And for Team 1, since they're a team that is playing towards this mid-game awakening right now, they're right to their favor. Whereas RIX, great first move with the Sin and the dive onto Jong, but after that, nothing else. So, curious to see how much of that advantage is going to be lost or really nullified by the equal power strength from T1. And I feel like it's all going to come down to Snitch, who really has the biggest scaling power like in the Echo Assassin.
Or is he's going to get ignited? He might have the ulti. He's all good for now, but Reno on the other side of the map, they're going to take the Rift Herald again. Snitch, you need to be careful. And Random?
Well,
Not
that
too
was
sure what happened there.
Yeah,
Oh, Snitch gets a kill
Okay,
though!
Snitch using the Chrono Break outplays Core, popping the stasis, and JY can't go under the tower. Snitch gets out alive in the 1v2.
1 versus 2 outplay in the bot side. We missed what happened to Random, and also RIX got the Rift Herald at the same time, so it's not looking too bad for RIX. You know, they're 2,000 gold down now. Not too sure how Random got caught in the top side there. I think maybe he might try to go in for a play. But trading again across the map for RIX. You know, Rift Herald up in top side, 1 versus 2 outplay in the bot side of the map. But Random unfortunately gets caught out. But you mentioned a little bit about the scaling of T1. I think the scaling of RIX is also not too bad, to be fair. Oh, he's cancelled his...
Oh, parallel convergence. JY wasn't expecting to be jumped by that, but you still got to respect the Kazakh's isolation damage. Final spark canceled by a nicely well-timed stasis.
Snitch is like, I feel comfortable, I could go in. Kazik just turns around, isolation damage, uses his first ability, pretty much nearly one-shot Snitch, and now there's going to be a downside because now they're just on the for this Drake.
2600 on the Dragon. Can 7 get in there for the steal? Not even a chance. T1 instantly burst it down, leaving no chance for RIX to even counter-respond. Life Lightning. I mean, Penguin is super tanking on this Gragas. Popping Stone Plate as well.
Yeah, he's already got Stone Plate. I think he already has Dead Man's Plate as well. Jong's on the sides by himself though.
He's got Blade of the Exile turned around. Explosive pass right in. Final spark for extra burst damage. Turn around before he can pop the wind. Snitch is back into the backline as well. 7 going down over to Core, but the rest of T1, it's still a 2-for-1 overall advantage. Core trying to turn up the heat here, looking for another play, but Doom with a beautiful flash gets out alive.
The Protovel ulti by Core, trying to get the Charmer, trying to get another pick onto RIX, but it's a 2-for-1 trade at the moment. They're going to try and take this mid tower, but there's no minions left!
They're trying to force it down, but Patience is getting ahead of RIX as T1 forcing them away from the tower once again.
The wave clear from Corki and Ari is just way too much. You use the rockets, you use Ari's first ability as well. There's no way that they'll be able to take down the mid lane tower. We're going to go back to this replay again. Jong gets caught really by himself at the sideline. Penguin tries to help him, but the final spark by Doom onto both Gragas and Rivendell on the back line. They tried to dive in, they tried to trade it back for T1, but unfortunately they couldn't really do that much. And really, it's Echo's second ability that's working as kind of like a zoning now, because you know you got champions that want to dive in, like Jong, like JY, and like Core. And you know, Snitch on his Echo has been doing really well and using his second ability as more of a defensive tool than an aggressive tool. Sometimes you can use it to dash in, but sometimes you can just use it on yourself and you're just like, okay, come to me, I'm just going to get a big massive shield, I'm just going to stun you.
Yeah, massive zone control. The big thing about the parallel convergence you got to take note of as well, even if you don't step in it for the stun, it's still a slow field. And so if T1 walk through it, they're putting themselves in danger of getting either stunned or just being late to a rotation or another side of the fight. So T1 have to, at all costs, avoid that zone for Snitch. And the fact that Snitch is just showing awareness of where the rest of T1 are and not just tunnel visioning onto the targets that Rick immediately catch on shows great prowess from this mid laner.
Yeah, as a champion that he has been playing a lot. Got ran now in the top side as well with the whole break completed. Going for Defiant Sunder, it seems like, as well, but they're going to try to make a play on this bot side.
And once again, it is Snitch with the parallel convergence plus the reinforcements of the RIX zoning T1 away. This is... Oh, man.
Penguin. It was close. He tried to flash in. He tried to use his third ability. Yeah.
Everyone gets one. Everyone gets one.
It's for day one. You know, we can't be so harsh on these players. It's day one of Icons.
I don't know.
Maybe after day 2 or day 3, we might be flaming a little bit. But, you know, day 1 is fine.
Whoa! But the stasis is great from BDG, but can he get out alive? That's the question. No! The burst damage from RIX overwhelms BDG's health bar, sends him back to the fountain. The turret will fall as well, and RIX suddenly are ever so slowly gaining control of the map now.
They've been trying so many times. I think third time's a charm, really, for that mid lane tower. They've tried to take it down over and over again. And again, it's the chain CC that I kind of mentioned about, you know, Doom with the first ability, Clue missed time to lock up with the stasis, but with Snitch with the second ability as well, using that to stun. And BG tried to Valkyrie away, couldn't do much.
Taking a moment to breathe here. The 2 dragons of the game have been taken by T1 successfully. What RIX have done in response has been trying to answer back in terms of overall turret advantage. It's only 3-2, but they have successfully now taken all 3 outer turrets at this point.
I think I want to mention one thing about Clue's. He has gone for the Extended Steel, which we've seen a lot more. Now it did get changed a little bit. As I say that, I might have to be silent.
7 with the insect. Pick on to JY. Stasis goes, but it's still going to be in vain because Doom's got the burst damage and the bug has been squashed.
7 sitting in the bush waiting, and JY trying to get a little bit aggressive there, but unfortunately for him, he got caught by 7. Really nice kick back back into Doom and then change the CC. But going back quickly to Clue's point, exactly, Jar got changed, really nice item now, gives health and ability haste. Might look for some crazy plays, but I like the Abyssal Mask second item. You have a lot of AP damage from the Lux and from the Echo. That's going to be, and Clue's going to be diving in as well. That means that magic resist is going to get completely shredded on the side of T1, so you could be looking at a potential one-shot.
And T1 don't have any true takes outside of this outside of Penguin on the Gragas, but he's going to be a support, so he's not working with as high of economy as the rest of teammates are. And JY and Jong, they don't want to be building magic resist, they want to build damage. So at some point, they're going to have to invest into at least a Hex-Drinker, maybe a full-on Malmortius, because this is a ton of burst damage that is now coming in for RIX.
It's so funny. Snitch and Doom, they have exactly the same items. Did they have the exact same boots? No, they have different boots. That would have been cool if they would have had the same boots
You know what?
as well.
Doom said, hey, you copy my homework, but don't make it look like you actually copied my homework. You got to change up the boots. Options there, at least in terms of resistances. They both went for stasises because you got to respect the burst damage from the assassins from T1.
Yeah, as we look into this next Dragon fight, it looks like it's going to be a little 5 versus 5 skirmish as JY's doing really well to try and pull the Dragon away. But Seven's on the side as well, but so is John.
Both of them are looking for flank. Seven wants to go for an Inksec as well, but we forgot about the front line. A lot of burst damage from Final Spark out of Doom. Stitch is there to clean up already. Penguin is gone, and that is one of your main front lines, one of your main sources of engage. It is now up to Dong. It is up to Core, maybe looking for a charm, but Snitch or Doom is able to cancel it out with the stage. BDG to go in, goes golden, but he's super low, and he's absolutely annihilated. Snitch trying to follow up, Core forced to flash away, and the third Dragon goes the way of RIX.
Final Spark mid lane as well, nearly kills out JY, but RIX in the end, they use the aggression that they have from Clue as well. Random got like completely one shot again. He hasn't really been having his best game, but look at that bottom side of the map, 2-0-5 for Doom, 0-0-7 on his Clue as well as we go into his replay. The Final Spark as well, so much damage. There was initially a little 1-for-1 trade, then after this, JY's too low, Jong is on the side as well. They're trying to not do this Dragon, they're going to try and turn around. Snitch goes in as well, trying to make sure that they just don't get caught out. BDG, I'm not too sure about that Valkyrie forward, buddy. I mean, you have the stasis, but Doom times the first ability really
And this is a result of, oh my god, just off-screen getting picked off. That Dragon fight, though, was a result of losing out of your primary engage Penguin's Gragas. Since he's gone, you're relying on Jong to be the one that carries it. Turn off the camera. Turn off the camera. Pan away. Pan away. Pan away. Avert your eyes, Stuart. No. He can't hurt you. But okay, this is good camera angle now. RIX still picking up the pieces. Random going down for a sacrifice. Now T1, they're the ones looking to hold on. They are the ones suddenly on the back foot, losing out on that third Dragon, losing out on control of the map. Waves are not pushing in on the side lanes, but RIX don't care. They have all the strength necessary to take out the second tier mid-turn.
Again, before this series even started, I just talked about RIX and their macro. They're just using Jace, they're using Random as a distraction the bot side. You're like, okay, you're going to take a kill, but we're going to take your tier 2 mid lane tower. Now they're going to play a little bit aggressive, try this red buff as Clue secures the red buff. Not too sure what he's going to be doing with auto attacks on Lux, but I guess it secures the secure.
You know what? Never mind. I thought about it, and I was like, no, it's coping too much. But it's okay. RIX don't need the efficiency of that, because right now they're in a great spot. 3,000 gold ahead of T1. It's not a massive advantage. It's not completely out of the works for T1. They still have ways to play around, but so far, RIX have identified by being able to isolate Gragas, the main source of engage, it is incredibly difficult for T1 to actually close the distance on most of the backline here, because when you think about it, outside of Doom, everyone has some sort of mobility spell that they can use to either link up with one of their teammates or get out of harm's way.
And I really like the Banshee's little pick up as well by Doom. He's just set up, gives him a little magic resist, but also gives him that bit of a shield as well. So if he tries to go in now and use the charm, or even Gragas tries to use explosive cast, Doom on this Lux is a very important champion. He's talked about all the ability, but if anyone can find a way to try and catch out Doom, then that could be their way to get to Victor. But Snitch as well, 4 items on this Echo. We were talking about how much Echo can do when it comes to the mid and also the late game as well, which pretty much 19 minutes as the Elder Dragon hopefully be spawning very, very soon, and that could be the final team.
A lot of weight. One fight. Random though. 1v2. Stasis goes golden. Jong already using the Wind Slash. Final Spark. They're trying to put some burst damage back down, but T1 crucially taking out the Baron laner from RIX. There's no strong objectives outside of the Baron to play for. They're looking for it, but Seven knows that Jong has no other cooldowns. JY forcing the flash out, Jong trying to go in and stall some time. Penguin throws out the explosive cast, disperses the members of RIX, and that's enough to guarantee the safety of his teammates.
Seven does so well to just sit in bushes and just wait for T1 to catch onto them. It was the perfect way to do that there. Didn't get the kill unfortunately, but Random just being isolated in the bot lane again. He's trying to, you know, play the 1 versus 1 game against Jong, but JY is just sitting defending Jong the entire time because he got that big disadvantage in the early game. He was losing all the minions, losing all the gold, also losing that blood as well. As saying that Jong looking to go here.
Okay, Seven and Clue, can they turn this one around? Core and Jong are quite fierce opponents. Slash and the Broken Wings closing the distance here, takes out Seven's flash as well as his Guardian Angel. Can T1 punish here? Final Spark trying to push T1 back, but they've waited it out, and now they're pushing through the choke point. Seven goes down at a crucial point because the Baron is up on the table here. T1 maintaining health bars here.
Elder Dragon's going to come very, very soon as well. I don't think Seven's going to be up as well for the Elder Dragon. I think it's about 30 seconds away for the Elder Dragon. There you go. It pops up, and Seven's going to be dead for 40 seconds. That means that T1 have a 10-second timer when it could potentially to burst down that Elder Dragon, sorry.
Oh wait, who got the Scuttle Crab? That dude. I can tell. Did he close? Oh my goodness. That's actually that's really nice because now you have vision of the pit. Otherwise, it's super dangerous for you to walk around through the river. T1 still have that 10-second advantage though.
Yeah, the TP in for Seven as well. He's going to be buying. Going to be TPing. Are T1 going to try and flip it? Are they going to try and burst in before Seven even comes alive?
You have to. RIX have been dominating the mid game so far, but T1, if they get to secure the Elder Dragon, this is their way back to the game.
Seven TP.
7 TP doing it 2,500 HP, but T1 secure the Elder Dragon. 7 comes in, it's just a little too late. Finds the kick back, but he gets isolated. Now T1 has the numbers advantage. Pressing forward, Penguin doing a great job. Front lining, looking at Chrono break back, but now it is RIX on the side of T1 after being down in the mid game. They're the ones pushing it. Snitch takes out PDG. The new shatter time and looking to shatter T1, but RIX, all 5 members look to fall. A prime gaming in for Team 1.
T1 in the end, they secured the Elder Dragon. That 10-second timer that they had. Are they going to potentially win the game here as well? They've got a little bit of a wave in the bot side. I'm not sure. You got about 50-second death timers. Riven and Kha'Zix can kind of burst down this tower. This is game number 1.
And just like that, Stuart, RIX, they had so much going for them. Mid-game was great. They were making slow pushes. T1, they take 1 advantage, 1 death off of RIX, and they use it to snowball into the Elder take the fight, and they forced game 1 back on their side.
What an insanely close game, though. You know, back and forth for the entire game. You know, sometimes it was RIX getting a little advantages. Sometimes it was one getting little advantages. It was just that little bit of a play by Seven in the top side of the map. You can't play that aggressive, and you can't be caught as soon as the Elder Dragon comes up. You got 10-second death timers, and look, the guys know it. You know, I feel like they kind of had control of this game as well. Even though the goal difference didn't really show that, you could tell by the map as well, the map control. They had the advantages, but as you said, one little misplay, T1 just take it full steam ahead.
And the context of the misplay is what is so important here for anyone who is just as shocked as we are on the caster desk, is because it was towards 20 minutes. It was in the late game. Death timers get to be 40, 50 seconds long. You cannot afford to make mistakes or deaths that late into the game. And the fact that Seven, he had a GA, he had flash, and he still couldn't get out alive. T1 recognizing how crucial it was to make that pick executable, and they all reset in time. They had enough tempo to be able to get back in position for the Elder Dragon and stop RIX from ever even entering. That is how T1 as a team can even be down in the mid game, because it was a 3,000 gold advantage. They weren't completely out of it, but they were on the back foot. But they kept calm, and they made sure that they were the ones that could clutch out the game win here.
One little misplay by RIX. You can tell by the players' faces as well. They are really, really sad right now. I think they really had that game in the bag.
Are you sad, Stuart?
I'm sad for you.
It's okay.
I'm really sad.
It's okay. Don't worry. It's a best of 3 series.
Reverse sweep. Here we go.
the EU Hopium here, whereas the unbiased NA caster here is just here for a banger show. But you know who's also here for a banger show? Our lovely analyst desk, hosted by Kangas.
Thank you very much, Rafa. And I think we're pretty unbiased here. We got at least 2 to balance out the one EU caster. Rick's not able to close it out. T1, a very close game. Let's be honest. That was the longest game of the day, and it came down to an Elder Dragon fight. But Hells, throughout that game, we did see T1 have a certain amount of control around the objective so far.
So RIX destroyed T1 early game, right? Like, we saw them destroy them. But the thing is about T1, which we talked about earlier, they know how to play around those objectives. They were able to get the first 2 dragons, and even though they were losing the game, they were only like 1 or 2 behind, and like it was really all about those dragons.
Exactly right. T1 is the type of team where as long as they're able to stabilize, make sure that the gap isn't too big, that means they're going to have a fighting chance at the Elder Drake, and I feel like this has been a WCK staple. We've seen it back then at the Horizon Cup with, you know, RY, Rolster having very incredibly close games, but they knock it out of the park come the Elder Drake fights. That's exactly what T1 did as well.
To Rix's credit, as we're looking at the replay package here, 7 found a couple of really big picks, and in particular, Hells, you had it almost felt like you were surprised with how gelling he was with the team.
So there's a few remarks about 7 because he joined RIX quite recently and he had a little bit of a rough time really, you know, getting into this team, right? Like he was really good, but he was just not on aligned with the playstyle of RIX. Now it felt like he was actually aligned. Like throughout the game, we saw him make some great plays, some great ganks, but that one misplay that he made where he got caught out at the Elder Dragon, unfortunately that's the one that completely lost the game.
And it came down, like you were saying, Riku, to that Elder Dragon for T1. Even before the Elder, though, we started to see inklings of what their comp could do when they actually got a good position for BDG. If the Corki actually could get off damage in the fights, hey, look, it was much better for T1.
Exactly. The Elder Drake is a very prime position for BDG to actually kite safely in the back. Unlike the previous happenings where a lot of these fights, a lot of these skirmishes are happening quite fast, so BDG has no choice but to like maybe Valkyrie forward and become out of position.
And we do see some instances where, honestly, let's just call it what it is, mechanical misplays coming in from some of the players from T1. Not sure what the reason for that is. New environment, you know, on stage, a lot of pressure, whatever the reason was, we saw some uncharacteristic plays from them, but it did come down to the proper setup at the proper time, and they got that game won, right?
It's a younger team, right? Like, they're quite young, so the nerfs are, of course, going to be very high, but for a team like this, what we generally see is, like, they have very big nerfs in the beginning, but once they start to get confidence, like, hey, we just beat RIX, we just beat one of the strongest teams in Europe, like, boom, we're 1-0, we can win another one, and if they win this series next game, right, like, the confidence builds up, and maybe we haven't really seen like the true T1 yet. That's what I'm thinking about this.
Look at that gold graph right there. It's an iceberg.
It is. It is an iceberg, and there's the deep into the iceberg, the orange color, and it's just a very telling story of what happened in the game.
But you know what's funny? It looks like it's an iceberg. It goes up and up, but look at how far it goes. It only goes to like 2.5 meters.
Yeah.
So it's like very zoomed in. It looks very extreme, but it's like if you actually zoom out to like the 10Ks, the 15Ks, it's a very minor gold difference.
How you frame a Y-axis, everybody.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
help sway the stats in your favor.
I mean, look at that, 14 kills.
14 to 14.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah, I mean, 4 towers to 5 towers, 1 dragon to 2 dragons, and then there's that one Elder Dragon.
Yeah.
That's all T1 needed.
And that's the thing what Wild Rift is all about, right? Like when you reach that ending moment of the game, it only takes one mistake. You screw up once and the enemy just completely capitalizes on it, because T1 had 10 seconds to take the Elder Dragon. It was just 10 seconds because Lee Sin was about to teleport and they took that Elder in 10 seconds. And from that moment on, you've essentially lost the game as RIX unless you just wipe the floor with T1 right then and there.
I think it's very poetic as well because we saw 7 getting a lot of leads for RIX, but at the end it felt like, what? 1 step forward, 3 steps back after that moment.
Yeah. He had made a couple of steps forward, finding those
that's
picks.
true.
Like he let's be honest, he had JY's number throughout
That
the
is true.
entire like first 3 quarters of that game. It's just unfortunate that at the end, when it's like
Yeah.
the game's gonna, whoever wins that fight wins the game. Like once you get to Elder, you're essentially at that point in the game. So when it's that close in the gold lead, you just can't get caught out. It doesn't matter how many times you caught out the opposition. What matters is that at the end of the day, today you get caught out, and then we saw T1 with the proper dragon setup, whereas a couple of times before, they were trying to get vision, they were trying to control an area, and that's when they were getting picked out
And
themselves.
honestly, this kind of feels like a curse to RIX at this point. Like, they seem to always win games up till the Elder, and we've seen this in EU as well, where Andres just steals away the Elder and wins the game. Right here, not necessarily the same, but they were winning all the way up until the Elder. One mistake, which is either missing the smite, dying right before the Elder, and they lose the game. Like, this is starting to feel like a curse for RIX right now.
I think this is a very strong indicator that, especially up against T1, if RIX needs to win, they have to make sure that the gold gap is humongous. Like 10K, 15K, to make sure that they have a lot of leeway. Certain things happen, things that they did not expect.
Okay, with that said, I actually want to see if we can get our predictions up, because we didn't have time to do it going into the actual series itself, but I know that we were saying about caster curses. I don't know about you, Hells. I think I might have caster cursed RIX.GG. I was very vocal on Twitter, my support of this team. I had a lot of faith in them coming into this. Now, like Stuart said, they could reverse sweep. No, there's a chance. I have faith. Hells had faith. Riku, feeling pretty good right now with your T1 prediction.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at game number 1, look at the experience region-wise as well, and their play style, the WCK play style of it doesn't matter what happens early, mid-game, late game, we're gonna win the team fight at Elder.
No, I think RIX can do it. I still think this was an unfortunate situation, and as I said, it's kind of a curse. Like, RIX was winning. They were the better
that's
team.
true.
Yeah.
But even though T1, you know what, they were catching up with the Dragon. To me, it felt like it was, you know, RIX was asserting dominance. Like, they were ganking, they were getting those kills, they were asserting dominance. They seemed to be the winners. And I feel like, you know, if they just really focus at the Elder Dragon this time, you know, don't just get too ahead of yourself, stay focused, and just finish off the game.
And I actually have a surprise announcement, everybody.
Woo!
We get to do pick and ban for this one. So we actually get to give Ruff and Stuart a little bit of a break here because we're selfish on the analyst desk, and we want to actually give our own thoughts because there's been a high priority on some certain champions that we've been keeping track of. Lucian's still 100% present so far. Shen been highly prioritized as well. These are champions that I like. The Shen I expected. The Lucian's one that's kind of been surprising some of us in terms of his priority.
Yeah, it's a little bit unexpected, right? The fact that no matter what side you are, red or blue, you always ban the Karma and the Yuumi, and that's the time whether or not you go for another route. Do I pick the Jace? Do I pick the Lucian? Do I pick something else? I think it's a very interesting adaptation from before Icons, and now we get a little bit of preview, the meta forming.
And another interesting champion that we're not seeing prior is the Morgana. She got buffed multiple times. We have a lot of Morgana players right here, and Seven is one of them from RIX. We have not seen Morgana been banned out. We've not seen Morgana been picked, and I am still expecting it to come, but we will have to see what happens.
I almost wonder, because there's a lot of champions that I expected to see highly prioritized, and not necessarily 100% pick or ban rate. Morgana being one of them. I just wonder if, based on the scrims, maybe those things that we think would work at the pro stage just aren't actually finding success, and that's why teams are pivoting away from them.
So the draft has started, and let's see what happens. You know, there's some obvious bans, the Yuumis.
Yes.
These types of champions.
Let's go through the list. Singed is going to be must banned. Shen,
for sure.
I would say, should be up there in my opinion. Ooh, Rakan from
Karma.
T1. Because keep in mind, this is game number 2, and Random, he did have some really good engages on that pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be absolutely scary because that's a very reliable engage. You don't want that there. And I do have a theory why Karma, Yuumi, and Lucian is always prioritized now.
Okay.
It's because, remember, the new patch, we talked about 80 carries. We've got this, maybe the Vayne is one of the secret scary picks right now. If you pick a Lucian first pick, it's going to deter the Vayne. Going to be up either in mid or even at bot lane. So that's my theory.
So I don't like the Jace ban, and the reason is Random can play it all. Play Camille, he can play Fiora, he can play Jace. So he's good at all of these types of champions. I feel like, you know, T1 has kind of fallen in this small trap. It's a very small because you're just banning a champion. But banning out Jace is not gonna do anything. It doesn't do anything against Snitch, doesn't do anything against Seven, and it doesn't do anything against Random.
Yeah, that's true. Snitch can play anything.
Yeah.
Just as you said, Random can play anything as well. But something interesting though, Lulu Yuumi is still pretty much open for the taking.
And they're still open.
It's still open, so Yuumi first pick can be possible here for T1, meaning hyper carry either in the jungle, which is Jax, Olaf as well is an option, and Vayne Kai'Sa as well.
And I was gonna say that right now. 'cause
But you know
Never
what
mind.
else is up? I was just gonna say what else is up is the Senna.
Oh,
Also been banned in pretty much every single game. I think it is 100% ban rate so
That's true.
far.
But I
And
feel
that's
you
locked
can't
in.
do this. I feel like it's like you pick the Senna and Nasus is still open, but you're leaving out the Lulu and they're not being picked.
Oh.
I find this interesting. Like it seems like both teams are trying to set a trap. Like it seems like they both have prepared
Well,
counters.
at
for
the
those
same
hits.
time, if you see the Senna locked in, you don't need to lock in the Lulu, right? You don't need to lock it in immediately. You can grab something like the Riven, which is a little higher priority
Right.
instead, and maybe the Gragas, which
There it is.
okay, yep. So we do see the Senna Nasus
They have to pick it now though.
and the Camille. Okay.
They have to pick it now though, because if they don't pick it, it's gonna get banned by T1. So let's see what RIX chooses to prioritize, whether it's gonna be the Lulu or the Yuumi.
I wonder what could be the option here, because then again, there's still the Ziggs open. Do you want to throw the towel and just be a wave clear bot at the bottom portion of the map just to try and match the Senna, not
It's
die? The
Varus.
Varus also is a good option.
Okay.
Makes me wonder if they're going for Varus Thresh over here, because Varus Thresh is a very oppressive bot lane and can roam a lot for RIX. So we saw earlier, RIX got a very amazing early game. Varus Thresh is also very strong to enable that. Thresh is also an amazing pair with Lee Sin, by the way.
True, and they also have the Gragas, which could also be the pair with
That
Varus.
is true.
Double ultimates that can find engages, find picks. So they're kind of holding flexibility
Yeah.
in their draft for right now. And T1, they have the same read as you, Riku. There's that Thresh banned away.
That's the thing, right? We talked about Snitch can play anything, so the Gragas can still be towards mid lane. Again, Rick's so unpredictable, so T1 does not want to take that risk.
Yeah, definitely. And you just have beauty about Rix's draft right there is you don't know where anyone is going. Riven can go jungle, Riven can go Baron lane, Riven can go mid lane. Gragas can go literally everywhere, and then you only know that the Varus is in the bot lane. And you know what I want to mention? I don't want to get hopes up or the hype up. Right?
All right.
I just want to mention it.
Now, come on, Hell, sell me on it.
Okay.
AP Varus could potentially happen. Potentially. I'm saying potentially. I don't want to get hopes up, but this is a thing that Doom loves to play. He loves it, but I'm not sure if his coaches are gonna allow him to play it. But if you look at the draft right now, Nasus is the biggest tank in the game. We have Camille, who is somewhat tanky as well. And if we get a little bit more tanks / semi-tanks on T1, it could happen.
It does make sense, right? We saw the Corki already doubling down on the health percentage damage items. The same thing can be applied on the Varus against T1 here with the composition that you mentioned. Yuumi is still banned, so T1 is really reading RIX that this Gragas is going to be elsewhere.
Oh, Shen is left up, so they go for the Shen pick. Now, Riven or Gragas could still go into the jungle position, depending on what they want to go for. And, I mean, honestly, we haven't really seen that at the competitive stage, but I still am a believer that things like support Shen can be viable. Maybe that's not. Maybe that's a little hoping right now on the
No.
Icon stage.
You're totally right, because the weakness of Shen bot lane supports is if you're against an AP champion in the bot lane, and guess what? They're not exactly against the Ziggs this time, so they do have leeway to flex that there.
And AP Varus makes sense now. They have a Graves as well. AP Varus absolutely makes sense right here. Now I'm curious to see whether or not RIX actually does it. That's the real question, right? And what is going to be the mid laner for T1? That's the real question, because they've picked everyone for every single role. Are they going to pick the Veigar?
I mean, I would hate maybe something like a laning Lulu. If you have the Graves and the Senna,
Right.
you can keep this Nasus alive forever, but no, they want the wave clear. Okay, this makes a little more sense now that I think about it. They can just shove waves, and it rounds out a little more of their damage composition.
Yeah, they really need something that can match the wave clear and the poke that the Varus provides, so I love this from T1. Trying to match the draft for RIX. And this time around, there's still a big mystery for RIX's draft. We don't know where people are going, which champions are going where.
And that's a strength of RIX, right? Like we've talked about it before. These guys, like you don't know what they're playing, you don't know what they'll pick, and while it's a strength, it can also be a weakness. They picked the Diana in the mid lane.
Oh! Okay, the reason I'm excited about this, NA plays a lot of Diana, so I can understand this champion to a pretty decent extent, but okay, wait, they're still swapping it around. I'm assuming it's going to be Diana in the mid lane,
Yeah.
Shen Baron with Riven jungle there. A lot
That's exactly
of
what it is.
engage, a lot of skirmish power, a lot of CC, and you look at T1, where is their peel? Who is going to stop all this engage from happening? The answer is pretty much nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, they got smoke screen, they got the Zig Satchel, but like, they do not have a lot of tools to get people off of them.
There's literally only one champion that is amazing at disengage right now in the meta, which is Gragas. And where's Gragas? It's over towards RIX. And I feel like RIX can go over to the a 1-3-1 type of setup with this. You know, get to the Riven to split push, get the Diana to split push as well. You've got disengage with the Gragas in the mid lane alongside with the Varus. It's a perfect configuration.
Coach is giving a fist bump on stage. That means that we're getting ready to hop into game. So let's send it back over to the casters, Rafa and Stuart, to get into game number 2.
Thanks, Kangas. And I was noting with Stuart here a very important observation here. We know that T1, coming from Korea, is definitely one of the more aggressive Korean teams because as a whole, that region likes to play towards the late game. But after seeing game 1, T1 has gone all in on very high scaling composition. And to me, Stuart, that's them saying, RIX, we believe in you being able to close out in the mid game.
Yeah, they can just say, okay, we can just outplay the mid and the late game, and that's what they did in the previous game with a little bit of a mistake by Seven in the previous game. Interesting enough, BDG's gone for fleet footwork, which actually got changed quite recently as well. The healing has been reduced, but also now fleet footwork gives back mana, which is quite an interesting one. So potentially looking at BDG, looking to try and get as many souls as possible, keep on using the stacks as well, and you can see how aggressive they're already playing in the bot side.
I mean, between the Fawn of Life procs from Nasus and already the Piercing Shadow, you're getting a decent amount of sustain already without necessarily needing Grasp of the Undying for the health stacking. I think now this just allows you to stay in lane forever against someone like a Varus who wants to just constantly shoot out arrows to make sure that you are pushing the wave back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing is as well for Doom is that Doom has his third ability, which is the healing reduction. So when he uses the third ability, the Halo Arrows, then he's able to get the healing reduction down. So if people haven't seen this before, Senna Nasus, even though BDG and Senna is going to be the carry, Senna is not going to be taking any souls at all. I mean, sorry, isn't going to be taking any minions at all, and it is going to be Penguin that's going to be taking the minions away, and Senna's going to be stacking the souls. But again, look, Seven's in this Baron lane again. They're really trying to shut Jong down.
Jong recognizing, hey, I saw this in game 1, but they're still going to go for it. An early flash, but allows Random to land the taunt easily. Seven should be able to pack in the damage. Random taking the last turret shot. First blood does go over to RIX, but Jong is able to trade back.
Really nice play. You know, the use of the flash, use of the hook shot as well to be able to escape. Not the best tower dive, but again, you can see what the game plan is for RIX coming in. And JY realizing that SC7 was on the opposite side of the map, but Snitch could get a little bit caught here.
Oh, you got to be careful. Flashing away, and then the quick Lunar Rush to make sure he gets out of harm's path from JY, who was taking advantage of the fact that Seven was on the Baron side of the map, invading, trying to counter jungle as well. But taking a look at the replay for the dive once more.
Yeah, we're going to take a look back at this replay at the dive. You can see that Random and Seven are trying to use the minions to try and catch him out. Really nice taunt, a really nice play, but the problem is that actually the slow on Camille's second ability actually makes it so Random doesn't escape, and even Seven has to flash straight afterwards. So even though, you know, Random didn't get a kill or anything, you know, he's behind in gold, which is kind of unfortunate. You know, it's a little bit of a trade-off in terms of jungle is ahead for RIX, but now the Baron lane is ahead for T1.
And it is important for RIX to be ahead in that jungle matchup because we know that JY on this Graves, it is by far his most signature pocket pick. Just looking at the stats once again, 7 picks overall during the WCA playoffs. This is something that JY has gone to time and time again. And even though T1 aren't necessarily a dire traits mode as they have won the first game, but it goes to show that JY is looking back on comfort to make sure that he can close out the series alongside T1.
And they've done this before as well, where they put JY on this hyper carry. As I say that, Clue, really nice explosive cast.
And it forces the flash out of Penguin. He gets alive, but now it's a summoner's advantage. Meanwhile, mid lane, Jong locking down Snitch, knowing that he doesn't have flash from before, but the United Shield from Random saves his mid laner from going down.
Oh, it was close, back and forth, and now Seven's coming in!
Wind slash at the ready, already popped on Jong, a lot of burst damage, and the counterattack takes out Baron laner 2-1.
We see the support roaming around this game, it's the back laners roaming. You got Jong roaming into the mid lane, you got Random coming in with Stan United as well. Nice play on the side of RIX. But as I was mentioning, you know, T1 played this sort of style before, where they like to put JY on the carry, and the rest of his team just plays like this utility AP sort of wave clear. just use Jay as their main carry. You just have center and misses, which is really nice to deal with. You have the wave clear in mid lane, and you have the lockdown as well from Jong in the Baron lane.
Right, it's the story of T1 all-inning on essentially a very full-on scaling composition. And JY, once you give him a lot of time for resources, he is going to be a huge threat.
RIX as well, they're again going towards this back lane. BDG is here though, Nasus is going to stay in the bot lane, but basically BDG is the support, so that's why you're seeing him roam around instead. But Elite needs to be a little bit careful, he's completely fine for now, but you can see RIX again just going back and back and back to that Baron lane. You can see they're trying to get some deep vision in as well.
Oh,
That's a great pick.
Yeah, RIX have all completely isolated out core. He's not on the mobile Ahri this time around. It's on Ziggs, and without the satchel charge, you're not getting out of a pick like that a lot. T1, once again, going back to the Dragon as their priority.
The Ziggs is dead though, so it looks like random, and also Snitch as well.
Snitch is looking to capitalize. Moonfall forcing the flash out of JY. He distances back, but he's back in it with a true grit. Looking to stack up the armor, but Snitch dancing back and forth with the Lunar Rushes, gets out alive.
It's random.
The collateral damage is not going to take him out anytime soon. The rest of RIX are now starting to collapse. Zhong is there with the Hexa cultivator. Random's already come in, but he is able to take out JY. And he's looking in the 1-2 against Zhong and BDG. BDG is keeping him at arm's length with the mist, locks him down, forcing him away, looking for a couple more auto attacks, but Random gets out alive. But the Rift Herald on the Baron side of the map, meanwhile, this whole time, we're going to have to pay attention to some other point. Snitch, wait, the Stand United shield, Random never used it. He's back in there, and he's got the Twilight Shroud. It protects Snix, but it's not going to be enough. Random now is able to trade back on the Jong, but flashing away from the BDG and core. The bomb is what clips him in the end.
Like you said briefly as well, meanwhile, while this absolute fiesta was happening on the bot side of the map, Seven was able to take that top tower, and the Dragon's not even down yet. There's low health bars on the side of T1.
There's no smite from Seven. He's on the other side of the map. He's dealing with Penguin right now. He might be able to get the 1v1 against Penguin. Flashing forward, the Wither, but you cannot slow all the movement dashes from Seven with the broken wings. But Jong might be able to lock him down. He's got two other friends here in Doom, including to escort him out safely. JY looking for it. Doesn't have collateral. Clue interrupts the dash over the wall, and then now it distances himself. Oh! Doom looking like Legolas out there with the piercing arrow from downtown.
Times it perfectly. The chain of corruption to stop the dash from JY, and then the snipe as well from the piercing arrow. JY goes down. So this is a little bit more of a scrappier game, Rafa. You know, first game.
Yeah, this is what I like.
This is what.
When Grand and Noma were casting series earlier, I was like, oh man, these are fingers already. And then first game, this is like 2-1 for the first 10 minutes. This is what I want to see. Come on, RIX and T1, throw it down on the Rift.
Give us more team fights. This is what we love about Wild Rifts. So let's back it down a little bit. You know, RIX have a goal lead again. Is another 3,000, 2,000 goal lead. They did get this previous game as well. Team were able to secure that dragon, and the Rift held over to some RIX. But Seven in the top lane, he's gone.
You know, Seven has been doing some very impressive stuff on the Riven so far. However, you cannot outplay a Hexacle.
You can't do because it's just going to lock them down. And meanwhile, Penguin, he's not going to be able to do anything about Stitch Glue as well.
It's okay.
As they lock him down, it's just back and forth at the moment, trying to across the map.
And I'm trying to protect this Baron from going down. Meanwhile, Snitch and Glue getting as much onto the bottom turret as fast as they can. But thankfully for RIX, they already done the damage of getting first brick thanks to the chaos that ensued during that first dragon we saw.
Yeah, exactly. JY Snitch doesn't know he's in there.
Oh, Snitch. He's got a flash. Dodges out on the end line damage. JY not even bothering to pop the collateral damage.
Really liking how both these teams are playing this game. You know, they're trying to use the sideways. They're trying to get isolation kills onto players. They kind of themselves, but Seven's back again.
I think he's almost got it. Oh, that hook shot, though. Jong, very slippery champion on that Camille. Yeah, he cannot withstand the power of Seven, who is 2 items already on Black Cleaver Death Stance right now, but he's got the safety to get out alive.
Yeah, he's got that mobility to come out and up alive. You probably thinking why Random is not split pushing right now, but he doesn't have his ultimate available. I mean, Seven is using that time to try and get the side wave control over to the side of RIX. And again, it's the RIX are the ones that are being proactive, which is kind of what we saw in game number 1.
Okay, Snitch clearing out the minion wave with the Moonfall. Doesn't quite clip Penguin for enough burst damage to threaten all-in lethal. Clue is rotating on over to give some support for Snitch to make sure that this tower doesn't go down. We have the second Rift Herald of the game coming up in the next 15 seconds, but it doesn't really seem like any teams are strongly prioritizing it for the rotation right now.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of a trade in the top side here. Jong's having a very, very nice time as Clue.
Okay, flashing forward. No explosive cask available,
Oh, the
though.
flash away
This
by
seems a
JY.
little disastrous, though. JY being able to outplay and at least answer one back before 7 answers with the wind slash. 1 for 1, and now it's a 2-on-1 against Penguin. Remember, he doesn't have flash from before. Knock up with the broken wings. RIX gets it done.
Kill secure by Snitch. He didn't really do that much there, but he was just like, yeah, I'm just going to throw in my first ability and get the
Come
kill
on,
secure.
man. He's doing his best.
Random. Oh, he could outplay here.
1v2. Oh! True damage is a little hard to outplay there, Stuart.
Yeah, I mean, even though the true damage does get nerfed a few patches ago, it is still quite annoying to deal with.
It's
Breaks
still
through
true
the
damage.
armor and magic resist. It doesn't matter if you build Banshee's Veil like Random has done. But again, it's trades across the map. You know, 2 towers to 1 at the moment on the side of RIX. RIX still has that little bit of a gold advantage with the towers as well. But now with this Rift Herald, looks like JY is going to try and secure it.
All right, how do RIX get in here? They don't have Random here quite yet, but he has spawned up, and he has Stand United. So now you already know that T1
They're
trying to
coming in.
respect it. 7 committing all the way forward on to JY, but he answers back on the Clue. Snitch is on the right side of the map, but he is making sure that the rest of T1's backline is zoned away from the fight in the jungle quadrant. RIX already taking out Penguin and JY, and they're going to be able to pick up the Rift Herald on the back end.
You talk about how RIX going to get into it. That's how they're going to get into it. They're just going to fully engage with Clue and
They just
7.
brute force their way
Yeah,
in.
exactly. They knew that Random had the ultimate, able to get the ultimate down, and now 25 seconds until the Dragon as well. 7 trying to go in. I'm not too sure about that one. I don't think he's going to be going into that one. And 7 at times, this is where he can start to get a little bit overconfident. You know, we saw him make that little bit of a misplay that, I hate to say it, but kind of lost the game for RIX in that previous
Damn.
game, really. I
Hey,
mean, it's
you know
kinda
what?
hard to say,
You're
but-
the EU caster. You said it, not me. You know, you can set the EU fans ablaze on you on Twitter after this game.
I'm totally fine with that. I think
I think I saw something right before this match about how, hey, Stuart, all our hands are on. Everything depends on you and what you do. So,
I think the players know me as like a bit of a caster curse at times, which
hey, me too.
little bit
Back
sad.
over in NA.
Hey, we're black partners
Is
now.
that why we got paired together?
Who knows? Maybe everyone knows.
Okay, Jong with the Hextech ultimatum trying to answer back. It is very tough for BDG to get alive out of this one, though, and the rest of RIX are pushing forward, but they're all choked up. That's a lot of burst damage in response from Core and JY. Beautifully timed ultimates together. A lot of damage being done onto RIX. Stand United onto 7, making sure that he is staying alive. They go back in, Snitch with the Moonfall, forcing the flash out of Penguin. They turn their eyes back onto the Dragon. Zhong all alone in that pit by himself. JY cannot get in there safely, and Penguin's trying to do as much damage as he can, but the poke coming out from Core and Penguin is going to be close for RIX. JY wants to go in. He wants to clean up the low health members from RIX here, but they are still standing strong as 5 members. Beautiful poke, though, from Penguin. Answering back. 2 members fall from RIX, and now they have to retreat. They are the ones on the back foot. Core from over the wall, finding snipe after snipe with these bombs.
The poke damage from this bot lane on the side of T1, sorry, not the bot lane, the Ziggs and the Nasus, you know, all this poke that's going over the other side of the wall. There's nothing that RIX could do about it. They group together, they try to take the Dragon, but when you're that low, when you're against a Nasus with the poke and also Core as well, you just die just like that.
Yeah, this is... I'm used to the Fimbulwinter Nasus, but I don't remember Ludens being built on Nasus before. If I'm not mistaken, it was used like a Rylai's just for the utility, but the fact that it's Ludens means that every time he is throwing down the Spirit Fire, it's getting that additional burst on top of it.
Yeah, it gets the spread damage as well that splashes onto the nearest enemies as well. But like you said, you normally see like Leandries and Rylai's going for more utility, going for more slows. We take a look at the Coca-Cola pop-off play in the bot side of this map. And again, it's RIX that kind of group together. You can see they all group together, but when you have the Nasus and then you have the Ziggs poke as well on top of that, there's nothing really that RIX can do. And then this is, again, 7 trying to dash in, then you have to use the Stand United on top of that, but look at all the low health bars, but they still try to play proactive. They still try to go in. Unfortunately, JY does get, Jong does get caught out. But look, Penguin's full health, Core's on the back line, using the bombs, and there's just nothing that RIX can do about it, and they just all fall.
Because they've expended most of their engagement tools already for the first part of the fight, and then they're forced away thanks to the poke from Penguin and Core, and they're just constantly whittling down RIX. And this is a great demonstration of just battle warfare from the side of T1. Yes, they lost the initial fight, but they didn't lose the war that ensued over the Dragon.
I think one thing that T1 did really, really well in the first game was kind of stop the aggression from RIX. They played really, really passive. It's not really something that we normally see from T1. They're normally the more aggressive, but you can see that they're adapting to this new meta. They're adapting to, you know, Sen and Nasus. Maybe we can play a little bit more slowly and play with this poke. But you can see that even though RIX were the ones engaging and being proactive, it was actually T1 the ones who were in the back line just using that poke to get the advantage.
14 minutes into the game here, Stuart, and we find ourselves, even though, once again, RIX seeming like they had the mid-game advantage, T1 able to answer back, 7 finding himself in the 1v2 against JY and Zhong, but Random is there to turn the tides of the battle, forcing both the Baron laner and jungler from T1 away. RIX coming in for reinforcements, Clue poking around, wants to get the final kill-winning blow onto JY, Explosive Cast gets a stasis out of JY, but he is isolated from the rest of his teammates, and that is RIX collapsing in. They secure the kill, but what can they get off the map for it?
That is the jungler down, the Baron is up and available. Unfortunately, Elder is not up like the previous game when the jungler got caught out, but yeah, like you said, 30 seconds. What are RIX going to do with it? They're going to go back for now. They're just going to spend the money that they got from that kill, maybe look towards the top side of this map, towards the Baron, but for now, they're just going to play it slow. They're just going to go back to base. They're going to reset. They're going to calm down a little bit, and if we take a look at all the builds as well, nothing really stands out in terms of build. Like I think, like you said, you know, the Luda's Echo going for more burst damage, I think for Nasus has definitely helped him in this game, even though he has died a few times, but I think the extra damage with the poke has definitely helped out. But across the board, you know, Hull Breakers, Divine Sunderers, it's pretty standard.
Yeah, and it makes the wave clear even more insane as well
Yeah.
for Penguin. So combine the fact that you have Ziggs wave clear, you have Nasus wave clear. You even see JY expending his ultimate as well just to push back waves and not give any room for RIX to be able to find opportunities to knock down turrets. This is how T1 were able to come back in game 1 as well. They held on, they didn't give a strong advantage over to RIX despite them winning a majority of the mid-game fights. We find themselves tied in gold. And for RIX, they wanted to end this game sooner, and now they have to be very, very crucial in the execution of the next upcoming fights, because those could be the last ones of the game.
It could be. The Elder Dragon is going to be spawning soon as well. Look at the Ziggs damage. That was one ultimate. That was one ability
You
by
know,
Ziggs.
Ziggs bomb never fails to surprise me in terms of burst damage. It's just so disgustingly high you get later and later into the game.
There is a little bit of a trade in the bot side with Random and Zhong at the moment, but nothing really going too well. And it looks like RIX are the ones that are trying to get the catch here at the moment. Unfortunately not, as they're just going to use a mid lane priority. They're going to push the minions, but we're in a bit of a situation now. We're in a bit of a scrappy situation, but the Elder Dragon is up in 30 seconds, and that could be the end of this game.
RIX, if you want the Baron, they are definitely fighting for mid-prio, but they're hovering on the Baron side of the map, and they're trying to goad T1 into face-checking the bush, because then they can capitalize with their engage, with their pick tools. But T1, they're not falling for the bait. They're maintaining control, because they know that the Elder Dragon is the key to victory. And if they all collapse onto Random right before this Elder Dragon, it's going to be like Game 1 all over again.
Oh, the Ziggs bomb was so close. It was really nice explosive cast by Clue. But like you said, RIX were focusing on the top side of this map towards the Baron. But that just gave T1 this entire control. And 7, you're all by yourself, but he's going to use the Stand United.
Okay, so now RIX get to fight the fight that they wanted in Game 1. All 5 members are here.
They're
They're collapsing. It's a Stand United coming in because one member from T1 is late. Zhong trying to make sure that he can join the ties of the battle. Looking at the chain of corruptions and spreading to all the members of T1. They're getting locked up. RIX looking for the final bits of damage to close out the members of T1. Bottom lane is gone, but Snitch has also been in the dust here. RIX looking to see forward. It's all on 7. He's still got a GA. He's still got a second life in this one. Zhong trying to answer back on the damage. Tactical precision enough to take out 1. But it's still a GA that needs to be popped from 7. Core all alone goes golden. Can he be protected? The GA is popped. Zhong is just going absolutely crazy in this fight. He has absolutely annihilated members of RIX. One after one after one. A quadra kill for Zhong.
And Zhong was in the backline the entire time. He didn't take any damage at all. He waited until the members were low as well. And that is a prime gaming ace over to the side of T1. They're going to take this Elder Dragon and they're going to take full control of this game.
How do they keep doing it, Stuart? I thought that this time around in the replay, you see that RIX, they're the ones that had the numbers advantage. 5 on 4, but then Zhong comes in for second win of T1, and it is what saves this fight.
And again, it's RIX the ones that have been proactive. It's RIX the ones with the aggression. They're going in for tower dives, even on tier 2 towers as well. But like you mentioned, all eyes on Jong. Look at him. He escapes. He's on full life. All the members of RIX are so low. So he comes in. He picks off Clue as well. Doom as well with the collateral damage from Gragas. He jumps onto him as well. And look, everyone's just low. Jong is full life. And RIX are still going in. Look at them. They're trying to kill down Ziggs. And that's what started this fight. They tried to take down Core. Core flashed away. Used the hill as well. And they weren't able to take him down. And that was the pinnacle moment.
The micro interactions and the decision making from T1. You could see the communication is just so crazy. Even the reaction from Coach June, just so relieved that T1 were able to pull off that miracle fight and secure the Elder Dragon. The game is not over yet though. Snitch, Moonfall engaged, has Stand United, but it looks like he's getting bursted out before Random can even arrive. And now Doom and Clue and Seven have to retreat from the members of T1. 4 was able to be traded out on the back end of it, but Jong is hitting on the Nexus right now. Random's trying to hold him back, but he's losing health fast, and the rest of RIX are looking to collapse, but that is ceding control of the rest of the map.
Yep, Jong using that as a distraction, gets the inhibitor tower on the bot side of the map. There's not really much that RIX can do right now. The Elder Dragon has gone over to T1. They got the other dragons as well. They got the Ocean Dragon and the Infernal Dragon. And now it's just T1 in full control. You know, T1 can maybe look towards the Baron here. They got the inhibitor down the bot side of the map as well. And that means that Jong can use that pressure in the bot side with the super minions as well, and with Hullbreaker to try and even finish the game.
RIX are looking for a way to still maintain stability in this game, but after being neck and neck with T1 for so long, they now find themselves down 7,000 gold here, Stuart, and it is so difficult because that Elder Dragon being secured by T1, there's no other dragons outside the Baron that you can play for, and if you lose the flip for the Baron, it's done.
Yep.
It's game over.
Yeah, it's the game now. The Baron is so strong. The Elder Dragon is already strong. Gonna look to engage, but Jong's on the Snitch.
Okay, Jong, Hexacle gets cancelled out by a well-timed stasis from Snitch. Moonfall already answered in the back. Seven, find Core onto the back line. He flashes away the stasis. Meanwhile, Jong just wrecking house. Members one after one once again. Ken Seven doesn't have a chance to answer back. Somehow Core didn't go down. It's just absolutely astounding to see how well T1 can play around each other's strengths and weaknesses, understanding where to be, and it's our teamwork that guarantees the win in this series.
GG, well played. Over to the side of T1 again. A lot slower early game than what we expect coming out of them into Icons. They were down in gold, but again, it's the team fights for Team 1, and it's the defensiveness of T1 and knowing when to go in and knowing the little micro.
Just the absolute awareness too. I think T1 understanding everyone's internal cooldowns on each other. You even go back to that dragon fight where Jong just went absolutely massive, the quadra kill. That was all thanks to, obviously, himself isolating, picking off targets one by one, but also JY and Core using themselves as bait to force RIX into trying to pick in between targets. Because you know that if JY and Core just left for the hills because naturally they were on low health bars and it would have been understandable, but it was them saying, okay, we're going to walk them up, we're going to bait them in, and we're going to pull them apart. And then the rest of RIX couldn't decide to focus on a single target, and that just left Jong like just a sleeper assassin, just picking off members with a silencer one after another.
Yeah, you normally know Camille as like a little bit of a bruiser, but he pretty much was working as like an assassin. But a little bit of deja vu for RIX, you know, in game number 2 as well as game number 1. Unfortunately for them, they will lose the first series 2-0. Sad EU voices in the chat, but it's fine. Still got another chance. They've still got another chance. Hopium is still here. We still got another chance to come out of play-ins.
It ended up being a 2-0 in victory for T1, a momentous victory for Korea as well, cementing themselves forward in this Group C. But of course, we've got more analysts that are willing to break down the game for us and take a close look. Let's head back over to Kangas.
Thank you, Rafa and Stuart. And like you said, the Korean teams have a lot to be happy about here. The question going into today was, is Korea a top-heavy region? Yes, Horizon Cup RY was able to go very far, make it to the semifinals. But then looking at this year's Icons, we didn't necessarily know where to power scale the second and third seed here, but third seed taking down RIX 2-0 in another close game. And again, it comes down to the objective control.
And it's crazy because like they didn't look easy, but much easier than many of the EU teams. Like RIX is a top team. Like you just saw them lose 2-0 by T1, but RIX is a top team. These guys are really, really good, and they pretty well, but T1 just played even better, and they were able to get all of the objectives. Like we talked about, every single dragon yet again, making the right plays at the right time. It's just, what a top team.
Yeah, exactly. They keep making, stabilizing the gold every single time. They're making sure that even though they're losing lives in there, RIX is getting a lot of kills, make sure that they get exchanges elsewhere. Yeah. And I feel like that's a very, WCK staple, even when we look back at, back in the past from the Horizon Cup. And I really like this, the fact that they're just very patient, waiting for the Elder Drake, and after that, they just win it again. That's why it's so reminiscent of not only Horizon Cup, but the previous game happened earlier.
And so focus on Poke. The Zig.
Yeah.
On Ziggs. This might be the best Ziggs I've ever seen. And maybe there was competition at the Horizon Cup, but as of recent memory, this Ziggs positioning was pretty much perfect. And pair that with the Poke of the Nasus. Now, Hells, I know that you had your own thoughts on the Nasus build, but the combination of the two meant that even though there's all this engage from RIX, by the time they engage, first off, they missed some of that there, but like they're already like blinking health bars.
So I think Ziggs did over 50% of the total damage of T1. But Kangas, do you really want me to talk about that?
I want you to talk about it. I know that you've been waiting. I heard your thoughts. Now I need the audience to hear your thoughts.
So I want to say something right here. It doesn't matter whoever builds Luden's Echo on Nasus, this is not the right thing to build. It absolutely doesn't make any sense. It is the worst item you could ever get. Penguin got the Luden's Echo.
Okay. Worst item?
There is not many worst
Duskblade.
items.
Just played Nasus.
So the thing about Nasus is he doesn't really scale well with AP. That's why you get the Liandry's and the Right Eye Scepter. The reason that you get it is because he has a lot of AoE with his ultimate and with his third ability to slow the enemies, to deal damage, and that's why you build it.
You would have more sustained damage in these kinds of fights here, but again, it comes down to core. Like this moment here was probably the biggest, impactful moment of the entire game.
And if you look at the several fights that we saw in this highlight package, it's always core. The last one, one of the last people standing, and his positioning was very important in these long-drawn fights. And at the end of the day, we also got to see Zhong give us our very first quadra kill in the Icons. It's crazy on the very first day, Kangas.
First day, first quadra. Rafa gave it justice also.
Yeah, and I think RIX is going to be having nightmares about the Elder Dragon at this point. Every single time it's the Elder Dragon that is their demise. Whether it's Andres stealing it, whether it's T1 flipping the game at the Elder Dragon is just not their friend.
It really isn't. But that is, again, to the credit of T1. These were both long games.
Yeah.
I know game 1 was the longest. I think game 2 was also the second longest in terms of what we've seen so far. I thought this would be a close series. This is the gold graph from this series. Now, I don't know about you. This kind of looks familiar to me. I think if we take a look, maybe we'll have it in a second here. Because if you had said that was game 1, I would have believed you. And here is game 1. So yeah, they're basically the same gold grab.
It's the same story, right? Like early game, T1 does pretty well, then RIX just wins the game, but then T1 just wins it at the Elder Dragon. Like exactly the same thing. And now I'm not sure if, well, T1, that's their strengths, the dragons, but we also know this is the weakness of RIX. So it's really funny how these things play into each other, and it just happens twice in a row. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's very important that T1 is just so good at evening the entire map, evening the gold, making sure that they don't pass the threshold of a 5k gold deficit. They always make sure it's below that, and I think it really helps transition to the late game, as we saw earlier.
And they're so comfortable when it comes to letting the game play out. They don't overforce. They're not getting nervous in the moments here. I mean, game 1, I was mentioning the kind of mechanical misplays of BDG and Valkyrie forward, maybe kind of like throwing some of those plays. I didn't see a lot of that in this game too, so T1 were able to reverse that. They felt much more comfortable on this Senna Nasus, which we had been hyping up all event. We think that this should be the meta, and that's why we see Senna banned so often. So also maybe a little wrong of RIX to leave that up there.
Yeah, that's right. But again, I don't feel this is the Senna Nasus that we know. Yet again, I'm hating on this build too much. Like, it doesn't work. Like, the way that they played it, it just doesn't work. Somehow they won anyways, because, like, the Ziggs damage was just crazy. They played it so well at the Elder Dragon as well. But this is not it, Kangas.
Yeah. But, okay, they still found the combo, and that's the important part. They also went with the Camille, which was recently nerfed. We weren't sure if we were going to see a lot of her based on the changes to the first ability. Yeah, you're not nearly as strong in lane, but, I mean, once you get that max level, you're kind of the same
Kinda the
champion
same,
at
yeah.
that point, and we saw what the Camille was able to do right there. But let's take a look at the updated standing so far in this group here, because it's fun to catch up now that we have one series in the bank of this bracket. T1 advance, and next up we have VK versus JT. The winner of that will go up against T1. RIX, they still have one more life, though.
And this is the problem, like RIX is all the way on the bottom. You can see them, like they have to climb up all the way up. They have to win 3 games in a row, and if they just lose one, they're out. Like
two series. So
Two
they have to
series,
win
sorry,
one
they have to win
series
2
and then their
series.
next series.
Yeah.
Because the winner of VK JT will go up against
Yeah, I saw
T1.
it wrong.
Loser
Apologies.
of that will move down.
So like they're all the way at the bottom. They gotta win. They gotta win those 2 games.
Yeah.
If they lose, they're out.
0 lives now.
And a reminder, this is the bracket for every single group in play-in. So this can be applied to all of the different groups that we've had so far. With that said, though, we're going to send it to a short break. Up next, the Popstar team, and a squad that likes to pop off. J-Team versus Vivo Keyed. Icons 2022 Day 1 continues right after this.